Tom Cruise schools the cocky new pilots in Top Gun, Maverick, when Tom Cruise signed on for Top Gun. Maverick, he had one non-negotiable rule: no green screens for the flight sequences, having famously puked during his own first flight on the 1986 original. Cruise was determined to ensure his new co-stars were truly prepared for that. Physically, they graduated to the L-39 Albatross jet before ever stepping foot in a Navy F-8 and rally, while many actors, including Glenn Powell Hyman, admitted to carrying puke bags during takes. Cruise's camera system, the Sony Rialto system. The production secret weapon was the Sony Venice Extension System Rialto. Standard IMAX quality cameras are far too bulky for a fighter jet cockpit, so Sony engineers decoupled the 6K sensor block from the heavy camera body. The setup, 6K Venice cameras were crammed into the F/A-18 cockpits, for cameras were trained on the actor to capture every G-force-induced facial twitch, while to face forward over the pilots, shoulders to provide the audience's POV. Engineering challenges. The rigs had to be ejection safe. Engineers at NAVAI, our Naval Air Systems Command, conducted shock, vibration, and wind tunnel tests to ensure the equipment wouldn't detach at 600 knots or during a 7.5G pull. The real-life Maverick, CMDR, Frank Weiser, while the actors were in the back seat. The actual flying for the movie's most dangerous stunts was performed by elite Navy pilots. The pilot, retired CMDR Frank Walleye Weiser, a two-time Blue Angels pilot and combat veteran, was the man behind the stick for Tom Cruise's jet. The impossible canyon run, Weiser piloted the famous low-altitude canyon run, flying as low as 200 feet, and sometimes lower through twisting terrain. He estimated his wingtips were often less than 20 feet from the canyon walls during these maneuvers. Blowing the roof off, Weiser also flew the jet for the Dark Star sequence where Maverick flies over Admiral King Ed Harris, physically blowing the roof off the security. Shaka practical stunt performed with a reel. Low-altitude pass, filming the high-stakes Dark Star sequence and training actors as cinematographers were two of the most complex logistical hurdles in Top Gun, Maverick, the Dark Star hypersonic jet sequence, the futuristic Mach 10 Dark Star jet was a blend of high-level engineering and movie magic. The mock-up, instead of using a purely CGI jet, production worked with Lockheed Martin's Skunk Works to build a full-scale, ultra-realistic prototype. The design was inspired by the real world SR-270 to son of Blackbird, and was so convincing that China reportedly reoriented a satellite to photograph it, thinking it was a real secret aircraft. The flying stunt, while the Dark Star itself did not fly, its takeoff and aerial maneuvers were filmed using an F/A-18 Super Hornet as a stand-in. VFX teams later digitally replaced the F/A-18 with the Dark Star's sleeker, windowless frame. Physical cockpit. The cockpit used real prototypes of instrumentation and a flight stick loaned directly by Skunk Works to maintain authenticity. Actors as cinematographers, because no camera crew could fit inside the fighter jets. The actors had to become their own directors and crew during flight, on board roles, while pulling up to 7.5 gigaseconds. Actors were responsible for turning on the 6 Sony Venice cameras, checking their own makeup between takes, adjusting their internal lighting, and ensuring their eye lines were correct. The Waiting Game. Director Joseph Kosinski and DP Claudio Miranda, couldn't see any live footage on the ground. They often waited 4 hours for the jets to land, only to find that a change in sunlight or a misplaced eyeline made the entire flight's footage unusable, requiring a reshoot. Specialized gear. The cameras were modified with the Sony Rialto extension system, which separated the sensor from the bulky camera body. This allowed the sensors to be mounted in the tight spaces above the glass shield and around the canopy, while the heavy recorder bodies was stored behind the seat. Safety and technical approval. The integration of these cameras into the Navy jets was a massive undertaking. Ejection safety. Every camera mount had to be approved by Maverick to ensure it wouldn't interfere with the ejection seat path. Independent power. The camera systems had to run on their own batteries to avoid tapping into the jet's critical electrical systems. Regarding the technical mastery of Top Gun, Maverick, the film focused on achieving realism through practical effects and challenging filming techniques. The low-level desert canyon scenes were particularly notable for their difficulty and the risks involved. Aircraft often flew as low as 30 to 50 feet above the ground, requiring immense skill and precision. This altitude also presented challenges like wake turbulence kicking up debris, which could potentially cause engine issues. To capture shots like the jet's shadow racing across the desert, specialized camera jets had to fly in close proximity to the F-18s at matching speeds within the turbulent air of the canyons. The decision to film at actual speeds, up to 600 knots, meant that the sound captured on the ground was the authentic and powerful roar of the F-18s, contributing significantly to the film's immersive experience. A key goal behind the film was demonstrating the power of practical filmmaking over computer-generated imagery by placing actors in real jets. The production aimed to convey genuine physical reactions, such as the effects of G-force to the audience, to ensure the actors' safety during the flight sequences, particularly the high-risk Canyon Run. The Navy required them to pass the Aviation Survival Training Center ASTC curriculum, commonly known as the Dunker, the Underwater Dunker Challenge, before Tom Cruise would let the overconfident recruits near an F-18. They had to prove they could survive a water crash. The simulation, actors were strapped into a multi-seat cockpit mock-up, which was then plunged into a deep pool, flipped upside down, and submerged. The goal, they had to remain calm, find their oxygen source, and navigate out of the pitch-black, inverted cockpit while blindfolded. The struggle. Miles Teller Rooster and Glenn Powell Hangman both described this as the most terrifying part of the production. If an actor panicked or failed to aggress exit within the time limit, they were not cleared to fly for the film. Survival gear and physics. The G-suit. During the low-level desert scenes, the actors wore functional global power GP flight suits. These suits have internal bladders that inflate against the legs and abdomen during high G turns to keep blood in the brain and prevent G-low G-force induced loss of consciousness. Real reactions, because they were actually pulling up to 7.5 gigaseconds in those desert canyons. The facial sagging and blood-draining looks you see on screen are 100% real. No amount of makeup or CGI could replicate the way the skin stretches under that pressure. The Maverick grading system. Tom Cruise didn't just watch them train. He monitored their progress like a commanding officer. Daily logs. Every actor had to submit a daily flight log to Cruise and the producers. Performance reviews. If an actor looked too comfortable or too cool during a stunt, Cruise would push for a more intense maneuver to get a more visceral, holy crap reaction for the camera. To wrap up this Hollywood Insider look, here is the final graduation story and the verdict from the real-life Top Gun elite. The graduation screening. After months of puking, pulling G's, and self-directing in the clouds, Tom Cruise finally showed the cast the first assembled footage. The reaction when the actors saw the raw canyon run footage. The room went silent. They realized for the first time that the physical pain and the 40+ hours of flight time for just 1 minute of film had worked. The Bond, Glenn Powell hangman, noted that seeing the actual distorted skin and burst capillaries on their own faces made them realize they hadn't just made a movie, they had completed a military-grade feat. What the real Top Gun instructors thought. The Navy's United States Navy Strike Fighter Tactics instructor program, the real Top Gun, is famously elite and critical of Hollywood physics. The authenticity pass. Real instructors praised the film for its accurate depiction of cockpit communication and the G-strain breathing techniques. The Maverick exception. While they admitted no pilot would ever be allowed to fly that low in a real canyon training exercise, it's a violation of Navarre's safety regs. They were impressed that Cruise actually performed the high-speed low pass that rattled the windows of the control tower. The watch penalty in the real Top Gun bar. There is a fine for quoting the original movie. However, after Maverick was released, many instructors admitted the sequel was so accurate it earned a rare pass from the no movie talk rule. The legacy. Tom Cruise's mission was to prove that human experience beats digital effects. By the time production wrapped, every main actor was not just a star, but a trained aviator with a deep respect for the need for speed.